Hi, everybody. Welcome to another version of the Bruce Singer podcast. I'm Bruce Singer, your host. I want to share a bit about the podcast. It's designed to be storytelling, inspiring, value content. There's no selling here. That's not the objective. And the focus of the podcast, if you look at my background, it's about food. It's food tech, agriculture, right across the entire food value chain, alternative protein, financing in the space, anything to do with that. And a bit about myself. I am the founder and CEO of Canada CFOs, which provides for early stage companies and beyond, a little bit beyond, fractional CFOs to help them grow, help them with their journey on the finance side. Again, the same space, food tech, alternative proteins, agri-food, and again, across the food value chain. And I'm very excited about this podcast. We're actually doing a special series with the XPRIZE organization on their Feed the Billion program. And one of the things we did, we made a, like I said, it's a special series, and we're going to talk about what they do. In addition, they have a $15 million prize under the Feed the Billion program, and we're going to have on the podcast all the finalists sharing their stories and how what they're doing and how they're contributing to the world and the and sustainability and resiliency in food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very exciting. So don't go away. You'll have a very interesting podcast today. And I'm very excited to have on our guest today, Sirli from TFTAK. And I'm going to tell you a bit about Sirli. Sirli, welcome to the podcast. Awesome to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to tell you a bit about Sirli. She's the food research director at TFTAK, which is essentially, she's the lead project manager on the XPRIZE Feed the Billion program for TFTAK. And she's going to tell you exactly what TFTAK does. It's a contract research organization. Again, she'll tell you more. This podcast, Sirli is in Estonia. So we're doing this long distance, and that's where the head office is, in Estonia. And she's actually a PhD in food technology, but to keep this simple, her focus and her career is focused regarding how food tastes. Okay, so dealing in alternative protein, I'm dying to know, because that's one of the challenges in that new. It's a new thing. It's a new thing going on in food and alternative protein. We're creating a whole new food system, and so again, welcome to the podcast. And I'd like to start by sharing. Can you share what is actually TFTAK? What is actually TFTAK? Tell us about the organization, exactly what its goal, its mandate, what's involved.
Yeah, so TFTAK is a contract research organization, and it was established even more than 20 years ago now, and we have more than 100 people working there. And we are working in the fields of food and biotech. And in recent years, one of our main focuses has been to look for how to make food system more sustainable and what could be the alternative sources for protein. And we are actually working with different types of protein, starting from plants, insects, but also fermentation enabled. We are doing biomass fermentation, precision fermentation, so different topics. And we conduct also different research projects, but our aim actually is to bring the research into the market. So we collaborate a lot with different companies, help to develop technologies in lab scale, but also help all the companies to scale it up to the industrial level, work with the consumers, and get feedback from them as well.
So if we understand correctly, it's the R&D phase, or taking it with R&D and even beyond R&D. It's taking them right to the point where to get it in the hands of consumer. Is that the journey? Is that the journey that your organization does?
Yeah, so we help to scale it up and up to the level to really help it implement in their production unit. And we also, during the development, we co-create products together with the consumers. So we have consumer panels, we can help out with packaging, help to determine shelf life. So really help the company starting from the idea phase and really up to a packaged product in the shelves of a supermarket.
Interesting, very interesting. Okay, so I want to take a step back. We're going to come back to TFTAK and yourself, but I want to talk about you, okay? Because 20 years ago or 10 years ago, this was never heard of. This is all new stuff. Okay, can you share your story? It goes back before before you. How did you become a PhD? Why a PhD? Why focusing on I'd love to hear your story. How you got involved in this?
Oh, yes. So actually, I think after graduating high school, I didn't have very clear vision in my mind what I want to be and what I want to achieve in my life. And I would rather say that I was guided towards food technology. And so I went to study first in bachelor and then in master degree. And after graduating, I actually went to an industry for a while. So I worked in a international brewery, but I'm not sure what it actually was. But at one point, I really felt that I wanted to go into more deep into food technologies. And actually, even working in the brewery, I was developing products on a daily basis. So my days were full with tasting, tasting, tasting. And so I kind of continued my journey in the PhD studies where I focused on tasting, but really on a level that I wanted to understand what are the molecules behind different tastes. And if we know the molecules behind taste, we also know how to direct it, how to modify it, how to make it better, how to take out something, or how to add something to optimize what people or the consumers finally perceive in their mouth.
Interesting. So let's talk about. Okay, so now you're in charge of food taste at your organization. I want to talk about XPRIZE because this is a very significant scenario. This is a total purse prize of $15 million US. Which is not they don't just give it away. There's a process here. I think when we spoke, it's a long one. And can you share with the listeners, how did you get involved? How does it start? What is the XPRIZE journey with you and TFTAK? We'd love to hear that.
So I think it started already in 2020. And by that time, we had been working for quite few years already with alternative protein solutions. And I would say it was a bit of coincidence. I haven't been trying to memorize where we heard about the competition. I guess it was somewhere from the social media where we saw that this kind of competition is starting. And it seemed like a challenge we would like to accept. And so we looked at the criteria. I'm not sure who knows about it, but XPRIZE is about developing fish or chicken fillet.
Correct.
And we really just considered which kind of product we want to develop during this competition. And at this point, we felt like fish is a bigger challenge. At that time, I think there were no fish fillets on the market. And so we were kind of thinking that if we are accepting this challenge, maybe we should even make it more harder or difficult
More
for
challenging.
ourselves and selecting the more challenging things
I get it.
to develop. So, so that is how it started. And as we were mainly working with plant proteins and we had already expertise in that area, so it was a logic choice for us really to start working with plant proteins and trying to make fish fillet out of it.
And okay, so you did that, and now I guess you submitted your app. You submitted what you had to do to XPRIZE. So it started somewhere. And how can you share? How does the process work? Like, how'd you get to being a finalist? Again, no trade secrets. Just things you're able to share it because we don't want to trade secrets here. How did you? What's it like? What's the journey like being a finalist? Is it meetings? Is it
Yeah. So it started actually with a project application based on what semi-finalists were selected. And we have done a lot of work since the beginning. And if you think that fish fillet really is a challenge, and we have actually divided it into different subtopics. So let's say, for example, the one thing that we have been and are still working to improve is the taste part of the fish.
Yeah.
But besides, very important thing also is the texture of a fish and texture of
Correct.
a fish fillet. And it maybe seems easy, but actually it is kind of difficult to have really fish fillet like texture, because it is much easier to get products which are like mince type, like burgers or that kind of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But really to have the fishy texture, this is a challenge of its own. And the third thing, what we have to work as well, is that it has to look as a fish fillet
Correct.
itself.
Yes.
So the 3D appearance of our product really to resemble the real salmon fillet. So when we put all these three things together, we get an ideal fish fillet. But we are working with all these three aspects, let's say, as a separate workflows. So
Yeah.
we think how to optimize the taste, how we can get the real texture, and how we can get the real appearance. And I think one of the strengths of TFTAK is that we have a house filled with scientists, specialists with different competences. So we can combine different types of people who are working with aroma molecules, who know how to get this volatile part and all the good taste. We have people who are working with extrusion technologies, so really to develop extrudates or the plant protein pieces that has texture like fish does.
Mhm.
And we have also some engineers who help us to design the 3D appearance. And as this product has to be industrially producible, we always have to think about the capabilities that it's not enough that we do this sample in lab scale, just using our bare hands. We have to develop technology that is really scalable, and it could be scalable and produced in a way that the cost of the production is
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
consumers can actually tolerate.
Wow, wow, wow.
So this,
So you talked about the taste, Again, I'm curious. Is it just, do you taste food all day? Like, how does one determine, is it you bring in a bunch of people? Like, how does it, how do you qualify? How do you get to the final, or you maybe never get to the final end product? How do you get to the product that consumers are going to like?
yeah,
Yeah.
I could say that our task is in that sense easy, that we have to imitate salmon fillet, so we actually know what we have to achieve. And regarding the taste, we are very regularly tasting the real salmon fillet. And in TFTAK, we have also expert panels who have been trained to really identify different sensory properties that we can use people as quantitative for quantitative analytics. So we use people as equipment, so they would actually quantify what is the level of sourness, or what is the level of fattiness, or what is the level of marine or fish-like aromas.
Oh, well, so you do it, and then if you, depending on the test, you keep going back and forth. Is that how it works? Back until you get to the thumbs up, I guess, is the thumbs up. You know?
Yes, and actually, if we are tasting every week some new prototypes with some improved properties, and very often we actually feel that we have improved a lot, but we really need to have the salmon fillet besides us all the time, because if you just taste all the time the plant-based or the alternative products, you kind of forget what the real salmon tastes like. So you have to
Interesting.
memorize it all the time and really compare it, and then you know that, oh, this texture is a bit tougher, or so you can really compare and you can
Oh,
really make some changes to get it more similar and similar with each change and each week.
Just another question, because I'm a finance person. When you talk to me, I would think it's very, is it capital intensive? I mean, back and forth. You got to really, there's got to be a huge investment to get to this point. Is that a fair statement? It's not like a simple little thing. It's a huge,
Yeah,
it's a lot of capital needed to get to this.
it,
A
it
lot of
is.
capital.
It needs a lot of human resources, but
Yeah.
besides the human and people who are tasting it, we have also analytical equipment. So when we started, we have actually measured what are the molecules that are giving fish its fishy aroma and taste. So we have identified these molecules by using different instruments. And we have also compared instrumentally, for example, the texture of the fish. So we have done a lot of mapping of the real salmon to know it inside out on a molecular level.
Wow.
And so we can really work
Wow.
on
Wow.
putting it back together.
Well, it's unbelievable. It's so many parts to it. The science behind it, like there. So I want to talk. Okay, so we're here today. In your opinion, what does the future, when you look at our food system and sustainability and alternative, what does the future look like? Is this a product that will be accepted by the consumer? Like I want to know your vision on how you see the future playing out just in this space. And then I want to talk about what happens if you win the money. That's another. But let's talk about just the future of this space. How do you see things?
Yes, so I think there are a lot of different protein sources that researchers, different companies are working with. So I would say that plant proteins, from one point, are the most emerged or most developed technologies. If we look what we can currently buy from a supermarket, most of the products are plant-based. But what's maybe very interesting for me as well is that if you think about the taste of the products, and of course we have to make products that really are tasty, and then we can attract a larger amount of consumers. And if we talk about plants, then the problem that we have to solve very often is that if we want to make fish from pea protein, it kind of wants to taste like pea. So from one side, we have to get rid of the plant notes, which are green or pea-like. And I have really seen as a scientist that this is a field that is getting more and more attention. So also breeding and selecting the varieties that have the best sensory properties. So in the product development phase, you don't have to work so much on masking and using different technologies to get rid of the molecules. So it's better to start from the beginning of the process. But also there are new emerging proteins as well. So a lot of things are going on in mycoprotein, also precision fermented protein. So producing food in bioreactors is something that also makes sense, and I think is getting more and more important, because in that case you can really produce food, high quality protein all around the world, even in the places where you don't have supportive climate conditions or you don't have agricultural lands and so on. But I think that the younger generation is actually already caring a lot on the environment, on the ethical questions, and more youngsters are actually looking for alternatives to animal protein. So I think part of this change is already happening due to the change of generations and younger people growing up already, understanding the issues and worrying more and caring more about environment, animals, ethics, and so on.
Well, interesting. So let's thank you. So let's talk about what happens if your company wins the prize. Are you able to share, like, what is the future? I guess you got to assume you will. I guess that's otherwise it'd be self-defeating. So you got to assume, what does the future look like for the business, for the company? What does that look like?
So first of all, what we want to achieve definitely is
Yep.
to bring this solution to the market as widely as possible. Is
Yep.
the first thing, and the second thing is that TFTAK this is a research company, and we are working also in other alternative protein topics like fermentation and like biomass fermentation and precision fermentation. So part of the money would be going into next development to build technologies more advanced and even more beneficial. So I think these are some of the things that
This is
will
incredible.
happen.
You know what? Thank you so much. We're coming to an end of the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing about TFTAK. And congratulations. This is a complete game changer in the world today. And I think, if I'm correct, it has to get done for sustainability purposes, and for the consumer demand for protein. I mean, am I right? As the population grows, there's just not going to be enough protein around to feed the public. And there's sustainability, climate, there's a whole bunch of array of that thing that you're solving. So congratulations for everything you're doing. And keep the taste going. Because like, I admit it, I'm a taste guy. We all are. We're human beings, right? We're taste buds, right? If it don't taste good, it's not happening. Not happening.
That's the most important thing. Yeah.
Interesting. Before we end, is there anything else, Sirli, that you wanted to share that I didn't ask, that perhaps you wanted to share with the audience? Anything else before we close?
I think that there is so much so interesting going on in this field, and it's very hard even to predict what will our plate look like in 10 years, which are the technologies that turn out to be the most successful. And so I'm just very much waiting to see the future and how this protein transition and moving into more sustainable solutions and circularity, and how it all will turn out, and how our lives will be in the future.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, and thank you to you and your team for everything you're doing. And as XPRIZE says, thank you for helping feed the next billion, because that's what it's all about. And I wish you much success in the finalists in the next, because there's another part of the journey. I wish you much success, and to you and your team, and good luck in the finalist competition. And I wish you all the best, and all good. All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. We'll get you next time on the podcast.